Hey everyone, welcome to another hot take. I'm Tony D. Lots to talk about today. I can't just put it all into one category. My God. First up, Katie Hill, Democratic Congresswoman who apparently was having weed-fueled orgies and finally resigned. I think this woman should resign for a couple of reasons. Number one is it's not that I give a crap who she has sex with, but I think it's pretty obvious that she hid her lifestyle from her constituents, right? She wasn't open about it and hid it. And because of that, she leaves herself vulnerable to being blackmailed because I think she knew her constituents wouldn't necessarily support her if they knew that's the way she lived her life. And I think that's a bit misleading. If you're going to live that lifestyle and you're going to be a politician, you need to be relatively open about it. It's not like you need to announce it every 10 seconds, but you can't hide it. And I think she clearly was. The opposite side of that coin, you know, there are people who are swingers and they live a certain lifestyle, and usually the rule is discretion. And if you are going to live that lifestyle and you are going to keep it a secret, then you have to use the maximum amount of discretion possible. And she is far too young to not understand the implications. Joan says hello. The implications of getting pictures of yourself on a phone. Because once you have naked pictures of yourself out there, they're going on the internet. And in this case, what I read in one of the articles was that either she or her husband put her pictures on wifeswap.com. When you're going on the wifeswap.com and you're a politician, that's pretty stupid. It's pretty stupid if you want a life in politics and you're not open about it. It would have been different if she had done that and said to her constituents, yeah, I go on wifeswap.com, I go to orgies all the time, that's my lifestyle, whatever. It would be like Donald Trump. I mean, nobody is surprised by, Donald Trump banged porn stars and paid them off. Yeah, no kidding. Like if it was like that, nobody would have a problem with it. But the fact that she's hiding it, she, in her own weird way, I think, is ashamed of her own lifestyle. And so it's a little misleading, and it leaves her vulnerable to blackmail, which, she was pretty important in Congresswoman is not it's small in the scheme of Congress, you could say, but, those people have staff and they do important legislation. You can't have somebody engaging in that kind of wild behavior, totally out of control. They had pictures of her smoking weed. Look, it's legal in some places, it's illegal and not. Again, you're a politician. You chose the life. It's not like you were a private citizen. And when you compare her to Trump, like Trump did most of his crazy stuff while he was a private citizen, not while he was president. So she should resign and, goodbye. Next up, the Covington kids are back in the news. Now, these were the kids that they were on a trip to Washington, D.C. They're a Catholic school. Covington is a Catholic school. And they were there to support the anti-abortion rally. And they were waiting for their bus on this school trip. While they were waiting there, there was a group of these guys who are the Black Hebrew Israelites, I think they're called. They're African American, but they're Jewish, and they're kind of like a weird sect of guys who think they're the chosen people, and they were yelling all kinds of crazy things at the kid. There was a couple of black kids in the school, and they told the black kid that the white kids were going to kill him and sell his organs, and all kinds of crazy stuff, and some racist stuff too. They started the melee. And the kids, they're teenagers, right? What do you expect them to do? You expect them to just quietly stand there while rando people yell at them. And it wasn't like these guys were in suits and, you know, were minding their own business. They just started ranting at the kids. I mean, you could go and look at the videos. So I feel that they ended up provoking the kids. Now, what happened next was it was also Indigenous Peoples Day, apparently, and there was a group of Native American guys. One of the guy with the drum, which you see on TV, he decided he would insert himself into this weird confrontation, such that it was. So you got the kids on one side yelling. They were yelling like school chants and stuff like that because they were getting annoyed. And they couldn't leave. Like, if you're in high school and you're on a school trip and the chaperones tell you to be at a certain place, you have to stay there until further instructions. I mean, they were waiting for their bus. Where were they supposed to go? It wasn't like they were grown adults that could have said, screw you guys, we're going to get in our cars and leave. They were waiting for a bus. So the African-American, the Native American guy comes up with the drum, and he starts chanting, and he gets in this kid's face, and he's got a MAGA hat on, and he just stands there and smiles at him. And immediately, the whole thing, the video goes viral, and the thing gets cut as if the Native American guy was walking through, and the kid suddenly confronted him, which wasn't the case. If you watch the video, he confronts the kids. And they have nowhere to go. They literally have nowhere to go. They're from Kentucky. They're on a school trip. And this guy, who's an adult, confronts him with the drum. And he immediately assumes, just like everybody else in the media, he immediately assumes that these high schoolers are the problem. Now, normally, the high schoolers can be a problem. But it's different in Washington, D.C. when you see a group of kids like that. They're on a school trip. So the whole thing goes viral, and you remember what happened. They basically end up calling these kids racist. They said all sorts of horrible things about these kids. Then afterwards, of course, the truth comes out. The videos come out. It turns out the guy who was beating the drum lied about his past, lied about certain events. I think at the event that happened. Certainly, the media greatly misled people, I think. And so now they're suing, the Covington kids are suing all these major newspapers. Now, originally, it got dismissed by a judge. But then the lawyers went back and sort of modified their lawsuit, which apparently they can do. So they cut it down. Instead of 16 instances, they cut it down to like 3. And so now the judge has ruled that there's going to be discovery, which means it's going to move forward. And what this means for the press, unfortunately for them, is now the lawyers get to pick through their process and to find out how exactly they ended up, reporting the way they did. And that's going to be really messy for, places like NBC, and I believe it's the Washington Post. It's going to be messy for them because this could expose some of their reporting and editorial staff as incredibly biased people who decided to get these kids or decided to create a narrative in order to, again, a lot of this is just to discredit Trump, which is really weird. Like, at what point do you finally just say, hey, let's just give the guy a little bit of credit? Which segues into my next thing, this whole Baghdadi thing. So Trump announces that Baghdadi, the head of ISIS, is killed in a raid. And the Washington Post posts this headline. First they called him I think they called him a terrorist initially. Then they changed the headline to austere religious scholar. and took out the terrorists. And then they went back, after people went bananas when they saw that, they went back and they modified it again. But it was a really dumb mistake on the part of the Washington Post. And because of that, they're getting blown up on Twitter. Check out, this is the first time in a long time that Twitter's just been incredibly amusing. Check out the hashtag Washington Post obituaries, because then everybody, and me included, they would take the most horrible people and describe them in the nicest terms, just like they did with Baghdadi. And, so it just makes the Washington Post look awful, look just terrible. And again, this all comes back to Trump. It's like if they had just said, oh, Trump killed a terrorist and moved on with the day, they wouldn't even have to acknowledge anything good, just not make it a negative. But they can't help themselves. Everything Trump does has to be spun in a negative light. And it's gone too far. It's just gone too far. To spin that. So, one of the things they focused on was, well, he thanked Russia first and then the Kurds last. As if that made a difference to anybody. As if the Kurds are sitting at home watching the news going, I can't believe he thanked us last. I mean, it's insane. Most of these people who are complaining don't give a crap about the Kurds. They don't give a crap about Russia or anything. They only care that Trump's in office and they want him gone. So it's gotten so partisan, it's so extreme that people are now willing to say almost anything to tear down Donald Trump. If they can't tear down him specifically, they tear down the reality around him in order to try to make him look bad. It's almost like they can't stand to see the guy win at anything. That they would rather see everything fail just so they could feel good about themselves. I don't know if it's this virtue signaling culture that's emerged out of social media, or if it's just that people are still traumatized by 2016. But it just doesn't want to seem to stop. I'm amazing at the legs on this thing. People are still doing stuff just to get at Trump, and the guy won't break. He's amazing. He's amazing in that way. You have to give him credit. The guy is full of energy. He doesn't break. He doesn't stop. And really, isn't that what you want in a president? A guy who's just relentless. I think, he's done fine. I don't agree with everything Trump did, but the idea, somebody I know was calling him a dictator last night, and I'm just like, he's not a dictator, and he acts like a dictator. Well, I mean, dictators are a specific thing. I mean, dictators, they come to power by force. Trump did not come to power by force. No matter what you spin, what conspiracy theory you spin, he did not come to power by force. Saddam Hussein was a dictator because he literally executed the Iraqi parliament one guy at a time. He sat in a room while they all praised his name, and one by one the names were called, and one by one they went out. Watch the video, look that up. It's creepy as hell. And Saddam was like really sticking it to those guys. Because imagine you're in that Iraqi parliament and a guy gets called out and then you hear the gunshots and you're like, oh man. So, that's a dictator. When bodies start hitting the floor, that's a dictator. When you have a guy you don't like, it's not a dictator, okay? Trump may be unlikable to a lot of people, but he's likable to more than half the country. And he's probably going to be reelected, I think, definitely. And I think the Democratic Party is really hurting itself. Again, I can't stress this enough. I mean, they just keep shooting themselves in the foot with this behavior. They need to give him just a little bit of credit. Not even like, kiss his butt. I mean, just acknowledge the facts. Okay, he did prison reform. Okay, he killed the terrorist. All right. And then just move on. Don't try to spin it. There's no point in spinning that. There's no point in trying to spin, well, it's a good economy, but it could be better. Like, when you have the numbers like he has, the idea is to move on to something else, something that's more important. If you want to critique Trump on anything, you should critique him on how much money he spends. He spends too much money. The problem with that, of course, is the Democrats spend even more. They would have to become the party of fiscal responsibility to really hammer him on that, and that would be tough. But it's workable. I mean, they could try it. Certainly easier than trying to impeach a popular guy with a good economy. So there's going to be a lot of people who are not going to be happy you did that. And they're going to lose a lot of House members. I mean, people, think twice before voting for impeachment, House members. I mean, your jobs are on the line, not mine. And especially this weak sauce of like, well, the Ukrainian thing. When you got Biden there, he's got his hand in the till. He's got a son with a job, and it looks bad. I mean, Trump is a master of optics, and that looks really bad. He's got so much money now for the re-election campaign. He has so many clips to show of bad behavior and bad faith on the Democrats. So many failures over the last 3 years. The Democrats really just need to cut their losses at this point. Just cut your losses and stop going after him. Every time you do, it's like putting your face in a buzzsaw. Just give the guy some credit and say, you can do better. And then you'll be fine. All right. That's it. That's my hot take. I'll see you next time. Oh, and smash like and subscribe. And don't forget, books, Wokistan, The Pineys, and The Pineys 2, now on sale at Amazon. See you next time.